Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. This is the aftermath. And the Patriots' first 17-game season came to a thudding end in Miami. Phil A. Perry is alongside to pound on the button of panic with me. Stay tuned while we do that.
It's time, world champion, and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Wow, I haven't done an old school intro in a while, but I did right there. Phil, this was supposed to be a playoff level game. They needed it. They won by 40 last week. They put up 50. In order to circumvent the loss of momentum that they had after the bye, they needed to follow it up. Instead, they lose to the Miami Dolphins, including a hysterical little lateral play at the end that made it 33-24. What do you got?
I feel as though I was duped, Tom. I was duped. I thought really all year. You'll laugh because you've called me on this every time I've brought it up. But every time they have a bad game, I say, it feels like these are easy things for them to clean up. And you say, yeah, but they haven't done it yet. And I still, up until this game, I felt like they would be able to clean things up. Because against the Colts, to me, that was more a Patriots loss than a Colts win. Buffalo, I thought, really talented team. Maybe they don't win that game, even if they play better. But I thought they didn't play the way they were capable of, especially early in that game. So I said, those are exceptions. That's not the rule. This is a team that can be dependable, right? That can play cleanly. And if they just do the right things, they're not that hard to do. They just do the right things. They can beat anybody. Okay. I'm feeling like that was off, Tom. I'm feeling like I was off on that.
You feel duped. You feel like you were schnoggered. You feel like you were snookered. You feel like you had the wool pulled over your eyes. Okay. And that's okay because you got these results. After that Cowboys loss, 35-29, scintillating, fascinating, everything else in that game. 54-13 over the Jets, 27-24 on the West Coast over the Chargers, 24-6 over the Panthers, 45-7 with Mac Jones playing great against the Browns, 25-0 against the Falcons, 36-13 against the Titans. And then right before the bye, you go into a gale force win. And you know what? You can take it. You can take the elements and you can take the starch right out of these pretend Bills. And you beat them 14-10 just by stomping all over their chest all night. So we were duped, sure. But we weren't willing dupes. We held our skepticism. They did a good job. They carried it out. They made off us. It was an incredible Ponzi scheme. And then they went into their bye week. We didn't know that they were going to be mad about having a short bye week. We didn't know that Mac Jones was going to come out and say we felt sorry for ourselves. We didn't know what was going on there. But they came back a different team, Phil. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
No, it's not my fault. And I shouldn't say I'm entirely duped because one thing that we've known for a long, long time is that the margin for error with this team is very slim. And so if they don't take care of the ball and they don't run the ball well and they don't play good defense, they could lose to anybody. Yeah, I think we've been pretty consistent in terms of what this team is. They need to play dynamite on the defensive side of the ball for them to win at a high level. They need the quarterback to take care of the football. They need to play a clean game when it comes to penalties, self-inflicted wounds, whether it's just not executing or schematically on the sidelines, the coaches. They did all of those things to a unsatisfactory level today, and they lost to a team that's not very good, Tom. They were 6-point favorites in this game. They should have been. Tua Tagovailoa is one of the worst quarterbacks that they've lost to this year. That's not a great Dolphins team, and they beat you, and they beat you up, well, I thought pretty handily, even though I know it was really just a one-possession game. It really did not feel close the entirety of the day today.
It's wild. They start the season 2-4. There are fumbles. There are penalties. There are simple mechanical errors in terms of getting the right number of people on the field. There's one guy breakdowns that we saw against the Dallas Cowboys. There's third and long breakdowns. And then it went away for 7 weeks. And then to close the season, you start 2-4, and then you finish the season 1-3. And in finishing 1-3, It's the same things you were doing at the beginning with blocked punts, which we saw at the beginning of the year. I mean, time is a flat circle with this team. They've gone back to what they were. And
is that just because they're playing good teams again? I mean, is it as simple as that?
And I think that they've worn down a little bit, but a lot of it has to do with good teams. I mean, there were no good teams that they played in that stretch. There were diminished teams that they saw. Tennessee was going to be the number 1 seed. Well, that wasn't Tennessee, and we all know that. They didn't have Henry. They didn't have A.J. Brown. They didn't have Julio Jones. They had defensive guys out. But I guess the bigger concern is, do we have to take a pause on Mac Jones because of the fact that he has disintegrated so robustly in the last 4 weeks?
I wouldn't blame you for it. I mean, again, they haven't asked him to carry them. They've asked him to be smart. They've asked him to take care of the ball. And you can't on the first third down of the game. And I know, listen, the Dolphins are a heavy man-to-man team. Thought it was a really good call by Brian Flores to say, you know what, let's mix it up. First third down of the game, let's play some cover 2. Let's make it look like man off the bat, but let's actually have that corner just sit right there, trap that thing. Pick 6 going the other way. The fumbled snap, Tom, to me is an inexcusable error, whether he's a rookie or not. You know, he gets fooled by a coverage. That's going to happen. Pick 6. Boy, that's tough. The fumble on top of it, I thought really killed them. If you had to pick one person to look at after this loss, I think you have to look at the rookie quarterback. And I get it. He's a rookie and you need the defense to pick him up when he has a rookie moment or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But you can't put your team down 14-0 off the bat.
On the first play in large part. What I had a hard time with, and we talked about this, we have spoken about this, is when I would say during the middle of the season that this Patriots team is trustworthy, honest, consistent, brave, loyal, all those things, that was based on the fact that they would get an 85 plus grade turned in on the weekly test on special teams, defense, coaching, and offense. And then it started to get out of whack. I mean, their best game of the year to me remains the Chargers game because they were so complimentary. But there were a couple of exchanges today that were just so jarring in that they didn't help each other. And you pointed one out to me really quickly was the first was they messed up that alert on 3rd and 10 that ended with Bourne and Jacoby Myers in the same spot next to each other. And then that was followed by the touchback that they had that Jake Bailey kicked into. But that messed up 3rd and 10 alert followed a timeout that they had to burn because the snap was late coming. And in the Patriots in the last 4 games, they've had so many times like that. You know, the McCourty dropped pick came just before the shit penalty call on Brandon Bolden. Whatever was going on the 4th and 1, Phil, I can't figure it out. And Bill Belichick obviously sidestepped it and will forever sidestep it. But what was the plan? Professional coach of 40 plus years, offensive coordinator of 20 plus years, all the pelts on the wall, Alabama quarterback, hailed as the offensive rookie of the year. What was the plan on 4th and 1 from the 50 at the end of the season here? 3rd and 1, whatever the hell it was. Was it 4th and 1? Yeah, they just sat at the line. Yeah.
4th and 1.
What was the plan? What were you doing? Because if you were planning on snapping it, you weren't acting like it. And then you eventually took a head bob thing. So you either had the wrong strategy, seemingly, which would need some explanation to bring us idiots into line as to why it was the right strategy, or you just effed it up.
I don't think they were ever planning on snapping it. Thinking back to it now,
which kind of makes me say, why?
Well, I think they said, let's try to get him to jump off sides because Mac Jones used the hard count several times before, and then he got way too into it, ended up getting called for a false start. I think the plan was hard count, or delay. No, I don't know if timeout. I think it might have just been delay of game, give the ball to Jake, give him more space.
Why would you not be going for it there? You're down 17-7. You haven't done much. You're at midfield.
Good question.
That to me is what's jarring is okay. If they screwed up and they didn't have 10 to go, why? It's 4th and 1 from the 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time around, it's, the team that's not in the playoffs is fake punting and everything else. What's the edge? Where's the edge to the team? Where's the razor sharp execution that you expect? Where is the edge in the coaching? Where, we see it sometimes. I don't even really put any eggs in the basket of Mac Jones and say, college try at the end, right?
Boy, no. And he doesn't want that either. To his credit, he's as accountable as anybody after the game. He really beats himself up after these games. And, whether that's good or bad, we could probably debate. And I don't want to let the defense off the hook here either. We were talking about just the game,
Correct.
Big picture, post game live. And I said, hey, if you had to put it at one person's feet, you kind of have to look at the quarterback who turned it over twice in a game that ended up being a 1-possession game. But the defense, Tom, first drive right off the bat, they just get run right through. And RPOs, I had them down for 3 RPOs that went for about 9 yards a pop. You knew you were getting those all week long. That's essentially their entire offense right now is RPOs. And they went 3 for 3 on those things. And I think they missed 1 RPO all game. I don't know if they even needed all that many, Tom, because they were able to run the ball at will too. They almost ran for 200 yards. But the defense deserves some blame here too. You mentioned the Gordy drop pick. That ends up looking like a huge, huge play in this game because, just as big, different moment, but just as big as the JC Jackson drop pick a couple weeks ago. People all over JC Jackson for dropping that pick. Devin McCourty, deserves some blame here too, because if he catches that ball, it's 1 fewer possession for the Dolphins. It's points off the board. It's a different game.
Bill, here's the rushing numbers that the Patriots have given up to opponents in the last couple months, really. Starting the recent past, 270 to Tennessee, 99 to Buffalo in the Gale Force wins, 220 to Indy, $114 to Buffalo in the loss at Gillette, 80 to Jacksonville, and then 199 today. Earlier in the year, right prior to that, actually, 40 to Atlanta, 99 to Cleveland, Nick Chubless, 78 to McCaffrey in the Carolina Panthers. McCaffrey just coming back. $163 to Austin Eckler and the Chargers. So when you have a 270, which I excuse that to say, hey, there's a couple of home runs in there. What are you going to do? And a 226 and a 114 and a 199, you got an issue. So they have pretty significant problems defensively. And as you pointed out, they had to be complementary. And they were in that Chargers game. That was perfect. They screwed up down low in the red zone 4 times trying to get in from the 1, couldn't do it. They get a 3-and-out against Justin Herbert. I think they got a field goal in the next exchange. The Patriots did. They stopped the Chargers again, 3-and-out, turned it into points. So it was that was a complimentary game. They had good punt returns in there too. It's kind of just gone sideways.
Listen, at the end of the day, just looking at the play-by-play right now,
Mm-hmm.
the defense allowed 20 points today. They weren't good. I'm not going to sit here and say they were good, but 20 points in an NFL game, it's hard for me to say they didn't hold up their end of the bargain either.
Right.
They didn't get the stop when they needed the stop, but 20 points in the NFL, that's a pretty good day on the scoreboard on that side of the ball. They just don't have enough offensively to be able to withstand the mistakes they're making. So you give them extra possessions, you give up 7 points on a pick 6. There's only so much, everybody can do. You can be more complimentary, and they could have been more complimentary and won the game today. No doubt about it. But I come back to the offense. You can't be giving away points like that. It's just they were a disaster for 3 quarters of this game.
We'll get way more into the matchup as the week goes along, and as this is the aftermath, so we're going to stick to the aftermath. So here's where I'm left, Phil. This is a team that reminds me somewhat of the 2019 team in that team was a little dysfunctional in terms of personality. Their best player, the franchise icon, and the head coach were crossing swords. There was the AB stuff. It just was a dysfunctional team. And I think most players and coaches knew it, even though they went about doing their job. They knew they were doomed. I don't think this team necessarily thought it was doomed, but in the same way that team beat up on average or bad opponents, this one did the same thing. Brady knew that team was going to get exposed, and they kind of did down the stretch. I don't think that this team knew it was going to get exposed. Do you think there's a problem with resilience and mental toughness on this team that is a little surprising. Ted referred to them not as frauds, but as front runners. I look at them as still not being able to recover from whatever injustice they think visited upon them during the bye week, that it was short. I mean, that's the smoking gun. Not to lose to Indianapolis. Who gives a shit? You lost. Whatever, you're there. Just to show up and just pee down your leg in all three phases. That, to me, is the indication of a team that lacks some poise and resiliency. Phil?
The words that I used after that loss to Indy were, it felt like they had a bit of an identity crisis on their hands, because they left Buffalo thinking they were the baddest team on the planet.
No doubt.
They didn't have to throw the ball. I mean, that was a celebratory locker room unlike any that I've heard, you know, in COVID times. We're not in there, so we don't know exactly what it's like, but you could hear them. That was the epitome of a toughness win. And then they go to Indy and they got run on. And they turned it over. And I think that whole image that they had of themselves leaving Buffalo, I don't know if it went up in smoke, Tom, but it would make a lot of sense if they were sort of questioning themselves after the fact. So I don't know if they just got ahead of themselves, if it was the bye, the shortness of the bye, the lateness of the bye that had them down on themselves, but maybe it's some combination. And to your question about, is there a mental toughness issue here? It's got to be on the table, right? I mean, Devin McCourty earlier this week talked about how, hey, great opportunity here for us because we can treat this game like a playoff game, and it'll help us get ready for what we're going to see in the postseason in terms of the focus and the preparation, the intensity that we have to bring to a game. There's still something on the line here for us. The division was still on the line. Everybody knew that was still up for grabs, but they were going to treat this like a playoff game in some respects. To show up and play the way they played early in this game, when that's how they were handling it, that's alarming.
Yeah, and to talk about mentally tough, of course, these guys do have individual mental toughness. It's more about mental lapses that shouldn't occur when you're on your shit. Jake Bailey shouldn't punt it into the end zone from the 50. I don't care what the weather conditions are. Lawrence Guy shouldn't line up over the center in any circumstance. How does that happen? Is that sidelines or is that Lawrence Guy? Was that a scheme thing? There shouldn't be the penalties that we saw, Phil, that are escaping me at the moment.
How about Matthew Judon late hit, just sort of dragging Tua down for really no reason?
Getting too far inside on the edge. Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne basically standing in the same spot at the end of a route on a key 3rd and 10 when the game was in, why didn't you get the alert out there? We didn't get the alert. Why not? It's the biggest game of the year. Why didn't you realize it was cover 2 and you threw it to the wrong guy, Mac? I screwed up. Well, it's the biggest game of the year. That's what I'm talking about with mental toughness. Does Mac Jones at 23 or 24, whatever he is, have more mental toughness today, tomorrow, and next week than I probably do? Yeah, but I ain't playing for the Patriots. So I'm pointing it out. They're not mentally tough right now, at least to the level that they need to be to excel with a team that is just okay talent-wise. All right, good one tonight, Phil. All right, we're reconvening after that clap. I wanted to end it on that, but John Henry said that we have to come back and just say we'll see you on Tuesday to get into the matchup a little more. He thought the clap was a little bit brusque.
Probably a good call by the Skull Crusher. It's a good thing we have him.
I know. All right, everybody.